Florida has been perennially one of the best programs in college football, and they always seem to produce big-time players as well. Except, over the last 10 years, the wide receiver position has been very interesting for them. While they have had guys such as Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts, who's a tight end wide receiver hybrid, they sort of have struggled to produce those big-time superstar receivers who take over the country or become big-time draft prospects. Today's video, we're going to talk about the guy who was that dude. He was absolutely insane as a freshman, his ceiling looked to be unlimited, and many thought he'd be a future star when he got to the NFL. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned, he got in a lot of trouble, and now it seems he is done with football. It's an unfortunate story, but we can learn something from it, and he was also great at Florida, so let's talk about his story. But before we get started, we're so close to 100K, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload. Now, let's get started. So you're probably wondering who the subject of today's video is, and it is none other than former Florida star wide receiver Antonio Callaway. But in order to understand what went wrong for him, we first need to go back in time. Callaway was the oldest of 5 siblings, and he was raised by a single mother in a rough area of Miami. According to her, Antonio's only issue at the time was picky eating, which led to his mother tearing his crust off his sandwich and telling him to deal with it. From there, Antonio was always interested in football, and he was doing everything right. He was a good student who was self-motivated, he never had a disciplinary problem in middle school or high school, and always made sure to bring home good grades. At 3 years old, Antonio had a football in his hands and became a local star early on in Pop Warner football. Football ended up running in his family, as his cousin was actually former Cardinals wide receiver John Brown. He also loved a certain school and player. Antonio would grow up a Florida Gators fan. He idolized Percy Harvin, watched every game, and modeled his own game after the Gator legend. He eventually grew into his body and was a beast on the football field, and it also seemed wherever he played, the team won. His mother said, quote, "All the teams he ever played on won a championship. When we were at Florida City, we went to Richmond. They won a championship. He went back to Florida City again and won 2 more championships. Everywhere he went, they won. We went to Booker T. Washington and they won a championship. It was just in him. It just felt like he was just a special kid and football was meant for him." As she alluded to, he would eventually transfer to Booker T. Washington High School for his final year of high school, and he'd go off. He had 950 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns, despite missing his team's final 5 games. That would be his 3rd different high school. Obviously, he was a big-time recruit, so where would Callaway end up going? Well, he was going to stay in-state and choose between Miami, Alabama, West Virginia, and Florida. Callaway was honestly just waiting for the right time to pull the trigger on Florida, but a turbulent season in Gainesville would get the coaching staff canned, and the new staff had work to do. His main recruiter, Will Muschamp, had left to go to Auburn. Once a frontrunner, Florida fell behind Alabama, Miami, and West Virginia as National Signing Day approached. Callaway had a visit planned to Tuscaloosa just before signing day, but McElwain instead got him to visit Florida. In case you didn't know, former Alabama assistant and Colorado State head coach Jim McElwain had since taken over from Muschamp, and he was known as a good recruiter, and he knew how important Callaway was. On that visit to Gainesville, Callaway knew he'd be in the orange and blue the following year. While it took Callaway a lot of time to figure it out, his mother knew where her boy would go all along. She said, quote, "Florida may have got in late, but that was one of his favorite schools. I think he was going to pick Florida regardless whether they got in late or not. He liked Florida at an early age." Callaway was a 4-star player and had signed the dotted line to play at Florida, but then a tragedy hit as one of his best friends, Richard Hallman, was killed in a drive-by shooting. Hallman's abrupt and senseless death would hit Callaway really hard, but in the process, it caused him to bond with Florida quarterback Trayon Harris, who was from the same area as him and was the cousin of Hallman. His mother said, quote, "When Richard passed away, that's when Trayon and him got close. Antonio and Trayon knew each other, but that really got them closer when the little cousin passed away." Callaway was now in fact a Gator, but he didn't have unbelievable hype. On signing day, Callaway's signing was overshadowed by C.C. Jefferson and Martez Ivey, who were both top 10 5-star recruits who decided to commit to the Gators. He was still a big deal though, as according to 24/7 Sports, Callaway was a 4-star recruit, the number 43 receiver, and the 341st best player in the class of 2015. Callaway never needed outside motivation to work, but the death of a close friend made him realize how precious life was and how quickly it could all end. He knew that when he got to Gainesville, and he had something to prove. So, how would Callaway end up doing? Callaway would get a chance to make an impact early on, as he catched 3 passes for 26 yards in their first game against New Mexico State, and then had a 34-yard reception against Kentucky. This led to his role increasing, and while he was good in his first 2 games, he was by no means a star. Then he had his defining moment. Against Tennessee, down with a few minutes remaining, he would catch a pass and go all the way to the end zone, and this was a miracle game-winning play, and he had caught 5 passes for 112 yards and a touchdown in a 28-27 victory. That pass was from Will Grier and has become one of the best game-winning plays of this decade. The following weekend, he'd end up catching a touchdown in a 38-10 upset over number 3 Ole Miss, and then he would struggle against Missouri. At this point in the year, Coach McElwain was so happy about his play. He said, quote, "I'm sure glad he's a Gator. We knew that when we recruited him. You're going to see more and more of him as he still kind of learns to do things." That insane touchdown against Tennessee was probably the best play of his career, but his mom wasn't shocked. She said, quote, "I wasn't shocked. When he ran that touchdown back against Tennessee, he was running right to me. His stepdad was in the stands crying, and everybody was looking over at me." Against number 6 LSU, he catch 3 passes for 100 yards. He'd go for over 100 yards and a touchdown against Georgia. Then he'd catch a season-high 5 passes against South Carolina. He'd catch a touchdown in an overtime victory over Florida Atlantic, and then he'd be limited against number 13 Florida State. Florida ended up having a 10-2 regular season campaign, and they would go to the SEC championship game, where they ended up losing to Alabama. They got to the Citrus Bowl, where they were matched up with number 14 Michigan, and Callaway would catch 5 passes for 75 yards. As a true freshman, Callaway had 35 catches for 678 yards and 4 touchdowns. This was the best season for a freshman at Florida since Rydell Anthony or Percy Harvin. It looked like the sky was going to be the limit for Callaway, but sometimes what goes up must come down. In early January of 2016, both him and quarterback Treon Harris were suspended from the team. At first, it was said to be related to schoolwork, but later, it was found out that he was accused of sexual assault. Ultimately, these charges would get cleared, but this would definitely stain his name, and I hope no one was hurt in the process. While Callaway had a shadow around him all season, he actually performed. He caught 8 passes for 72 yards and a touchdown against UMass, and then had 5 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown against Kentucky. He had an extremely strong start to the season, and then would go for over 100 yards in a loss to Tennessee. After that, though, he would cool down. His targets per game went down, and he did not have over 100 yards receiving the rest of the year. He also only had 2 touchdowns in his last 9 games, and that included another trip to Atlanta as they got blown out by number 1 Alabama in the SEC championship game. They'd end up going to the Outback Bowl, where he'd catch 7 passes for 55 yards. After an extremely strong start, Callaway finished the 2016 season in a very disappointing way. He ended up catching 54 passes for 721 yards and 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, this would be the end for Callaway, as he would get in trouble for marijuana in May of 2017, and then would be suspended for their opening game against Michigan. He was one of 7 Florida Gators players suspended for that game, and apparently he would miss the entire season as he had used a stolen credit card to fund his bookstore account. Combining that with his possession of marijuana and the incident back in 2016, Callaway decided to hang it up for his Florida career and declare for the 2018 NFL Draft. Despite some of the off-the-field issues, Callaway was seen as one of the better receiver prospects that year because every time he played, he was really good, and it looked like his game would translate over to the NFL. He ended up getting taken with the 105th overall pick in the 4th round by the Cleveland Browns. Since the Browns were in a terrible spot, many thought Callaway could come in right away and be really good. Going into the season, he was named the 3rd receiver on the depth chart, and he was behind both Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon. For his rookie year, Callaway was actually pretty impressive. He ended up catching 43 passes for 586 yards and 5 touchdowns. Because of that, he looked like one of the more promising young rookies in the NFL, but then he'd get in trouble again. He would miss the first 4 games of the 2019 season for violating the NFL substance policy, but he was also later eventually reinstated on September 30th. Just about a month and a half later in mid-November, the Browns decided to waive Callaway after he showed up late for meetings and practices. He also wasn't performing on the field. In 4 games, he had 8 catches for 89 yards without a single touchdown. To make matters worse, he would then be suspended another 10 games for breaking that same substance abuse policy. When they asked the Browns why they waived him, they had a simple quote for it. They said he had too many issues. After this, he'd go over to the XFL, where he was signed by the Tampa Bay Vipers, but he would suffer a lower leg injury and was placed on IR. The league also fell apart, so then in 2020, he'd sign with the Dolphins practice squad. He'd still have to serve a suspension though, and by the time he was reinstated on November 2nd, he was able to play. While with the Dolphins, he ended up catching 2 passes for 20 yards, as he could never really get going, and then he was signed in 2021 by the Kansas City Chiefs. He ended up getting waived because of an injury, and then reached an injury settlement with the Chiefs. He'd been out of the NFL for nearly 2 years, but then literally this past week, the Dallas Cowboys hosted him for a workout, and apparently he has been signed to the team's practice squad. I think the story of Antonio Callaway is very unfortunate, but there's one simple answer why this all happened. He just couldn't stay out of trouble. After seemingly having a very difficult childhood, something changed in Callaway while he was at Florida, and he just could not stay out of trouble. Whether it was the credit card situation, the sexual assault situation, the marijuana situation, or the banned substance situation, he just couldn't stay out of trouble, and ultimately, what this in my opinion means is he was searching for something to fill that void. Sadly, when you're in the NFL or when you're in the media, your decisions are way more in the light and you get scrutinized a lot more, which I'm sure did not help Callaway's situation anymore. At this point, I'm definitely rooting for Callaway, as I hope he makes the Cowboys, stays out of trouble, and can put his career back on track. I also hope he has changed from his previous past and has put a lot of that bad stuff to rest. Either way, Callaway was a lot of fun to watch at Florida, and he was good for the Browns, so talent was never an issue. But ultimately, if you have the wrong attitude or you can't stay out of trouble, you're not going to make it in the NFL. But what do you guys think? If you're a Florida fan or a Browns fan, what do you think went wrong for Callaway? Who is another player I can take a look at in my next video? And be sure to let me know your thoughts down below. Also, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.